Hey guys, and welcome to the Bold Believers podcast. My name is Braden Harris, and I'm going to be your host for this podcast. This podcast is for Christian middle school and high school students. We're going to be diving into the problems that you guys face on a daily basis, and we're going to be talking about how to overcome them biblically. We hope you guys enjoy. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to episode number 2 of the Bold Believers podcast. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Meaghan.
Hey,
Introduce
guys.
yourself.
I'm Meaghan. I'm Braden's wife.
Whoa, shout out. Guys, we figured we would come on here today and just kind of talk to you a little bit about relationships and what a godly relationship looks like. Because I know a lot of you guys out there are dating and
We're talking.
whatever you want to call it. And so we just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about what it looks like to date biblically and still conserving yourself for marriage and not putting yourself in difficult situations to have to make a hard choice, right? Because
Yeah.
whenever stuff happens and you're by yourself and you have to make the decision, it's pretty hard. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about today about how you can guard yourself and how maybe if you are looking for a relationship, what to look for in somebody, or how to handle a relationship, or, oh, so-and-so did this, what do I do? So we have at least one question, maybe some more questions will come in here in a
Yeah.
little bit. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Maggie, if a young girl right now
Mhm.
is looking for a dude, right? What advice would you give young girls on what they should be looking for in a guy right
Mhm.
now?
Okay, so for my ladies, I feel like it's very important in the high school and whether you're in middle school or high school or you're transitioning in between, I think it's very important to look for signs of, one, does he go to church? Does he believe in God? That's the first thing. Does he actively live out his faith? Because a lot of people, or a lot of guys that I experienced when I was in high school, oh, he's a Christian, great, but he wasn't actually living out his biblical faith. And I feel like there's a difference between labeling yourself as a Christian and living your life as a Christian. And so I feel like that's the big green flag is, okay, he's actively serving
Red
in
flag.
church.
You said a
No.
big green flag.
Yeah, a green flag would be if he was actively serving in church. You didn't let me
Makes
finish.
sense.
Yeah.
Guys, don't do that if you want a girlfriend.
Yes, don't interrupt her in the middle of a sentence. A big green flag is if he's going to church, is he actually actively serving? Is he in a Bible study? Is he being poured into? Does he have community? Those are great things that you want to look for. And so then a red flag that you were saying, like, would be the opposite of that. Like, is he just going to church camp because it sounds fun, or is he actively going every Sunday because he wants to grow in his faith with God? And I feel like too, if a guy is pressuring you to do things that you're not comfortable doing, then that's run. Like, just go the other way.
Dip out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not from God, and that's not obviously what you should be doing. And I think once you start seeing yourself compromise your beliefs and your morals for a relationship, then that's also a big red flag to go the other way, because that's obviously not what God is calling you to do. And that's only going to dig you in a hole to where you're further and further away from God.
Now, what would you say to the ladies out there that are like, "Oh, I can change him"?
You can never change him. Only God can. And I feel like that's I don't know if that's just the nurturing side of us women, because we're, God created us to be nurturing, he created us to be moms. And so I don't know if that's just us taking over that role whenever we're young and think that we can change people, but really ultimately God can only do that. And if you're trying to take on a role that only God can do, you're just gonna fail every time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I would say for the men out there or the young boys out there that are trying to pursue a woman, it's kind of what she said, right? It's like, hey, be in church, man. Like, hey, instead of dropping F-bombs and saying all these disgusting words, maybe cut that out, right? Because at one point, all the boys think it's cool, right? But chicks don't dig that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're sitting there and they're like, what just came out of that guy's mouth? You know what I'm saying? And like
Mhm.
looking back, like there was my mouth was filthy in high school. I'm just gonna be honest. And like I look back and I'm like, man, I'm embarrassed on some of the stuff that I used to say.
Mhm.
Um, so dudes, man, clean up your language, right? First and foremost. Second, don't be inappropriate, right? Like there's no place for sexual innuendos or sexual jokes, especially around females. Hanging out with the dudes, doing whatever. I can't control what you guys do there, but I am gonna say there's a time and a place for that, maybe
Mhm.
joking around, doing whatever, but in front of females is not the place for that. Respect them. Um, and another thing, quit acting like girls are objects, right? Like girls are more than their features, I guess you could say. Like
Mhm.
there's you don't have to objectify a female because of what
Yeah.
they look like or what they wear or whatever, because that creates an unhealthy habit.
Mhm.
Um, because then you're gonna be married one day and you're gonna have a wife and you're gonna be like, well, my wife's gained a little bit of weight and oh, she doesn't work out as much as she used to. Oh, why is she
Mhm.
wearing this? And then that's gonna create a whole other list of problems. So I know it's cliche, but it's like, man, date somebody for their personality.
Yeah.
Date
Yeah.
them because you enjoy hanging out with them and they're fun
Mhm.
and they push you to be better. Um, Also, guys, man, the hormones going through you guys, tone it down. Right? Nobody likes to be objectified like they're a piece of meat, and the pressuring that Megan says happens, dude, that happens all the time.
Yeah, more than you would think it would, and then I feel like girls, we often feel like we have to give in because, well, then he doesn't like me anymore, and then Sally over there is gonna be getting all the attention from the boys, but really, if a girl's getting all the attention, that's probably not the girl that you wanna be
Mm,
because she's attracting the wrong kind of dudes, and the
right.
behavior that she's doing is just making herself be, um, what'd you say?
Objectified.
Objectified, that's a
There you
big
go.
word, look at you.
Yeah.
Um,
I can be professional.
wow. Um, and sexualized in a way that you don't wanna be, because that's not all you are, you're not your butt, you're not your how skinny you are, how thick you are, like, that doesn't make you who you are, and you can have all the things, you can have all the BBLs, whatever it is that you feel like will make you look good and attract the right guy, but at the end of the day, like Braden was saying that, all that will fade away whenever you're married. You don't wanna be miserable in a marriage because all he was attracted to was who you were on the outside, but not who you were on the inside. You wanna be able to connect emotionally and spiritually, and to be able to do those things, you have to look inward and not outward.
Yeah. And I feel like, and we talked about it in last episode whenever I was talking about social media and stuff. TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, there's a reason why I don't have it. It's because they over sexualize everything. Right? Girls are making money nowadays selling pictures and videos of their body, and that's so popular because people are over sexualizing women. They're over they're making these women their features
Yeah.
and their things, and they're not just women. And then
Mhm.
you hear about it all the time. So many people like are so upset whenever they do those things and they get out and they tell all these horror stories because it's like, well, I'm a real person and I have feelings and I have and people just treating me like crap. Well, it's like you're setting the standard for yourself. You're treating
Mhm.
yourself like crap,
Yeah.
right? Like, and they try to preach, oh, it's empowerment and it's this and my body, my choice. But it's like, man, if it was your body, your choice, you wouldn't be showing it to everybody.
Mhm, that's good. And it makes me think too, a couple I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen it maybe on Facebook or Instagram. Black China, she was, one of those people. She was making videos and was on, I can't think of what it's called right now. But anyways, she was just making videos of herself that were really inappropriate, and then she recently found God, and she was saying that God told her, like, "I did not put you on this earth, um, for you to sexualize yourself and sell these things and put these things on the internet," and now she's changed her life. She's removed her tattoos, she's removing all the fillers and all the things, and, like, I think that's something that we should look for as, like, almost like, I don't wanna say, look to as a positive thing and, like, know that she once had all those things, and it obviously didn't satisfy her the way that God could satisfy her, and, I think that's really important to remember whenever you're posting videos and, I get it, crop tops are cute, but that doesn't that you're just gaining the wrong attention, and, your body's a temple, and I think and even for guys too, I think guys struggle with that too with, "Oh, I'm not tall enough, I don't have enough muscles," or,
Mm,
"Oh, my calves aren't big enough."
calves. Nobody
The
says
Some guys do.
that's their fault that they got stick legs.
Braden said that a couple times.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I got them thick boy
I'm just
calves.
kidding.
I got calves for 7 skinny dudes over here. I do.
7.
I got a lot of calves, dude.
So would that equal 14 legs or just 7
I don't
legs?
know.
Okay. Um, but anyways, we get caught up in our image, and I think that's what really plants those seeds and those doubts of your insecurities, and really, like, no matter what all you do, no matter what work you do to your body, no matter what pictures you post, no matter how many likes you have on Instagram, who all, reposted your Twitter video, those aren't as fulfilling, and they will never fill you the way that God can fill you.
Yeah, and posting those thirst traps on your private Snapchat, trying to get that one boy to slide up and be like,
Or
"Ooh,"
girl.
or girl, right? Dudes, don't post those pictures. It's weird. Um, but it's like, man, like that's true. Like, and bro, everybody just wants to play games these days. Like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna post this picture and see if he replies. Like, oh, he didn't reply, but Kevin replied, and it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, that's another thing. Like, quit with the games,
Mhm.
man. It's not like marriage is not some big game. Like,
Mm-mm.
this isn't some. I don't go to Megan and I don't try to manipulate her to do what I want because I just wanna play games. Like, that's not what we do,
Yeah.
like, we just communicate with each other, and we're
Mhm.
upfront with each other, and I joke about it all the time. Megan rejected me 3 times, but I was upfront and honest with her every single one of
Mhm.
those times. I was like, "Hey, I like you. Let me take you on a date." And she was like, "No." And we moved on, right? And th we were still
Mhm.
friends-ish,
We
right?
were for about a year. We
Well,
were
for
friends before we dated.
and then it was one of those things where it was like, I tried again. "No, okay, that's fine." But it's like, you don't have to play these games. You don't have to, "Oh, I'm gonna post this picture of this girl to make this girl mad,"
Mhm.
and, "Oh, I'm gonna text her and have her tell all of her friends so it gets back to you so that you can be jealous." Like, that's
Mhm.
not what that needs to be. Like, that's setting yourself up for an unhealthy expectation of what
Mhm.
marriage is, and right? And so, we didn't say this, but ultimately date to marry, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's the mindset that you need to have,
Yeah.
and I feel like we lose that a lot, like, "Oh, we're just talking, I'm just trying to see if
Mhm.
I'm just gonna explore," and it's like, no, like, dating realistically, so I've only had 2 real girlfriends, right? And Megan was one, and I had another one, and then it was like date to marry, right? Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to date 17, 18 guys just to explore what you like and whatever. Like, man, if you both are pursuing Christ and you're living the way that you need to,
Yeah.
and make it last.
Yeah.
Don't just, "Oh, I'm gonna date this guy for 6 months and then Chad is gonna come over and we're gonna do whatever," and but, like, quit playing the
Yeah.
games. Like, you're just destroying your perspective on what you think marriage is.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's like, your partner's not gonna be perfect, and so whenever the grass is greener on the other side, you can't just leave.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, the grass is never greener, and I feel like that's the thing that social media tries to portray is that, like, well, Susie and Bob, they look so happy, they have a I mean, for us, we're just building a house, so they have their house is two-story,
yeah,
and they have 3 cars,
yeah,
and, all their kids, they go to private school, they look so neat, and they always have everything together when they post stuff on pictures on social media, but that's not real, and
right.
I feel like that's what people think of when they think of a relationship is that just because someone posts a happy moment, one happy moment, they went on one date or whatever, and they post that on social media, that doesn't mean that their relationship is golden. And just because y'all are going through things or whatever it is, I don't know, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be green the grass is gonna be greener on the other side.
Yeah. No, for sure. So what would you say to people right now that have a boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're struggling with sexual actions or sexual thoughts? Like, give them, in your opinion, what's probably the best thing that you can do to prevent some of that stuff to where it doesn't become a problem?
Right. So I think that it's a really good question because I feel like well, there's a statistic of you guys are mostly probably in high school. I think it's like 2% of you guys will probably stay together throughout high school. So if you guys are letting sexual temptation and things and you guys are having sex in your relationship, realistically, that's not going to be the person that you're going to marry. And so when you think about it, like, yes, you're so in love and you feel all these feelings, and a lot of it does come from the sexual thing
Actions.
actions. Yes, thank you. But when you think about it, like, you're taking that away from your person that you're gonna marry, like, you're giving yourself away to someone who God may have not intended you to be with, and so I think to help prevent that is always having boundaries. Boundaries are a really good thing, and not a lot of people nowadays like to set boundaries or, like, keep boundaries. I feel like a lot of
It's not
people
like a thing anymore.
yeah, it's not, and
Yeah.
or For my, experience in high school, it was a thing that, well, let me see how far I can get, like, how far can I test her boundaries? And so I feel like having boundaries is a really important thing, and 2, like, don't go where you're secluded, do public things, go out on dates, go eat somewhere, go to the movies, where you're surrounded by people, and have your friends keep you accountable, and I feel like this is where my heart is so big on community, and I feel like having your girlfriends, like, letting them know, like, "Hey, this is a real thing that we're struggling with. Can you please keep me accountable? Can you please, hey, you and your guy, can y'all come? Let's go double date. Let's go do things to help you with not be in a secluded area to where you're opening doors and you're pushing those boundaries to where that could be a possibility to happen."
Yeah, because the and that was my number one thing is be in the open.
Mhm.
Okay, it was really funny. Me and my parents, uh, we had this funny thing that we would do, and my parents would leave us in the living room, not alone. They were close. We had like an open living room kitchen concept, and so they would be in the kitchen. And then my dad, every once in a while, he would just be like, "Hands up," and I would shoot my hands in the air. And it was just an accountability thing of
Yeah.
like, hey, keep your hands where they can be seen at all
Mhm.
times. And it was one of those things where it's like whenever we were out in the open, there was no temptation to do anything.
Mhm.
And that's the thing is people are sneaking over and sneaking out, and oh, my parents don't care if you stay the night, bro. If your parents don't care if your significant other is staying the night, then you have to be big enough and bold enough
Mhm.
to be like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. And if you can't do that, that's not the person for you.
Yeah.
Right? You need somebody that's not gonna even gonna put you in the position to be tempted with that. Now
Mhm.
now let me say this, you're gonna be tempted,
Yeah. I mean, we're
okay?
human. That's what God designed us to
Right.
mate, and that's how, but for marriage, for inside of the covenant. And I feel like nowadays it's just so, like, if say you and I weren't dating and you were pressuring me into doing something, it's like, well, I have to do it because then I'm going to be a prude. He's not going to like me anymore. And I feel like that, like you were saying, like, that's not the person for you, because ultimately, like, we're not put on this earth for our desires and our temptations and what we want. Like, just because, say you graduate, okay, you get a 4.0, okay, you get a big house, okay, you're a millionaire. Those are all things for the self and not for God. Our ultimate reason to be put on this earth is to build his kingdom and create disciples and share his word. And so it's a privilege that we get to have marriage and we get to have relationships. And dating's not even in the Bible, it's something that we created.
Right.
And so us as humans, like, we have these things that we want, but ultimately, like, that's not what God intended for us. And so if you are truly wanting a godly relationship, a godly marriage, then you have to be the one to break those chains and say, okay, I'm going to follow what God wants me to do. And in that, he's going to bless me with those things.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, man, just stay in the open, have
Yeah.
accountability, have community, have people that wanna surround you and love you enough to be able to be like, "Hey, what did y'all do last night?" And you have to be open and honest enough for those people to be like, "Hey, I screwed up,"
Yeah.
you know? Um, so be conscious of that, do that. We're kinda getting close down to time,
We are kind of getting
so,
close down to time.
do you wanna pull up the questions?
Oh, yeah. So we have a question. Um, so I'm going to ask you. How can we tell or see that if it's from God or that God's hand is in it?
Mm,
That's a good
yeah,
one.
yeah, that's good. I think biblically, and I think that, um here's from a biblical perspective, right? Is there's no such thing as soulmates.
Mhm.
Okay, there's no such thing
Your
as people
person.
who are predestined for you and God has
Yeah.
called them and God is whatever. Like I love Megan to death, um, but truly I feel like we found each other because we were both pursuing Christ and we were both on the right track to do ministry and to be a power couple to make hell nervous and to do stuff
I
like
said that in
that.
my vows.
She did say that in her vows. But it's true, and I truly feel like me and Megan found each other, and God placed some things in our lives to make us meet and do whatever. But realistically, whenever you're pursuing somebody, you really have to ask yourself two questions: Do they love Jesus, and are they pursuing Him relentlessly? And if you're iffy on if they love Jesus or if they are pursuing him relentlessly, whenever I mean relentless, the definition of relentless, which I don't know, but in my head it's like you're getting chased by a bear and you have to make it to this tree, otherwise you're gonna die, right? Like it's one of those things. Um, and so truly, if they aren't relentlessly pursuing Christ, run away. right? If they're not trying to be like, hey, let's do a Bible study, let's do whatever. Anyways, long story short, there's no such thing as soulmates, I don't think. But what I will say is if it is from Christ and if it's at the right moment in time, everything is going to be easy. I know for us, I tried to rush things, right? I asked you out 3 times and you said no each time, but the last time it came so naturally.
Mhm.
It's like we were constantly being drawn close to each other, and like there was no doubt in my head. And so it's kind of difficult in high school because you have so many feelings and hormones and, oh, that girl's pretty, oh, this, oh, that. But what I will say is whenever it's from God, it's going to be easy. Okay. And then they're going to be pursuing him relentlessly, but also they're not going to play those games.
Mhm.
They're not going to put you in those types of positions to question, hey, should I have sex with him or should we wait? Right? And they're going to respect you enough to respect your boundaries and to respect your decisions. And so if that's not happening, they're definitely not from God. And if you're
Mhm.
sitting here having to battle and prove to this person, a big thing too is fixing somebody.
Mm.
You should not have to fix
Yeah.
anybody, right? And I'll be honest with you. If that person has problems and if they have trust issues, run. Run. Go. There's plenty of fish in the sea with somebody who doesn't have broken you don't have to pick up all the pieces. That's not your job. That's God's job.
Yeah.
And sometimes that puts a lot more stress on you than you need, right?
Yeah.
Especially being young and being in a relationship and now you're carrying somebody else's burdens and doing this and that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean that's it.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, our God's not a God of confusion. So if you're feeling confused and you're like, I don't know, does he like me? Does he not like me? That's not of God, then just keep going.
Right.
I feel like that'll be made pretty clear whenever you're trying to figure those things out, when you're trying to
100%. Yeah.
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 I was gonna say something else, but I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's okay. Did we have any more questions? That was the only
No,
one that
that
came
was
through.
the main one. Oh, it reminded me of this triangle. So like God's the top and then you're right here and this person's right here. The closer you get to God, you're either going to be if that person's getting equally close to God, then y'all are going to be the closest you can be to each other. But if you're not, then like it's not going to work out. You guys have to be equally yoked. And I feel like that's not a thing that's talked about often in high school relationships, being equally yoked with your person and just both pursuing God, because if you're not both pursuing God, then it's just not gonna work.
Right, and if you're not doing that, then that temptation is gonna slip in, and you're gonna be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I'll do blah 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 with you, but we won't have sex."
Mhm.
But knowing good and well that it's going to lead down a path
Yeah.
of destruction. But if you guys are both actively pursuing Christ, we're not going to say that mess ups aren't going to happen,
Right.
and we're not going to say that things don't happen and whatever.
Yeah.
There is forgiveness and there is redemption.
Mm.
But if you guys are both relentlessly pursuing Christ, those situations either aren't going to happen or they're going to be very far and few between. And in those situations, you will have the heart and the conviction to be able to stop
Yeah.
and to be able to, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Mhm. And I think too, like if you are a high schooler and you're in a relationship, we're not saying that you have to break up with your person because you guys have crossed some of those boundaries, but I would encourage you to reach out to your leader, your youth pastor, your community, and kind of just get some accountability and guidance, because that doesn't mean that your relationship is doomed, but you need to get a hold on that ASAP, because if not, it's just the fire's gonna keep spreading.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, guys, that's all we have time for in this episode of the Bold Believers podcast. Maggie, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Guys, if you don't know who we are, if you don't know what this podcast is, and it was just randomly sent to you, my name is Braden Harris. I'm the student pastor here at Grace Christian Fellowship. And this is my beautiful wife, and we do ministry together Sunday nights. If you're a middle schooler or high schooler, we have what we call Encounter, which is our,
Mhm.
our youth meeting. Okay, it starts at middle school is at 5 o'clock, and high school starts at 6:15. If you don't have a place to go, or if you don't know Christ, or you don't know anything, guys, this is a place for you. You are welcomed. You are loved. And guys, we just want to help you do life, and we want to feed you Jesus and be a light in you guys' life. So, and this podcast is just something for you guys, right? Something for your week that you can listen to while you're doing homework or doing stuff like that. And hopefully we give you guys some great godly advice and information that's a blessing to your life. So we love you guys. And we'll see you next week for Encounter. We'll see you there.